Okay, hey, welcome back to episode 6 of Nobody Asked for This. I'm Keaton.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're two guys, and we're going to talk about stuff that you don't care about and you didn't ask us to talk about,
Nope.
and give you our unsolicited opinions. So yeah, we took an episode or a week off last week because of life, and you probably didn't want to watch it anyways.
No.
But here we're back, episode 6. And, we're ready to get going. And so Brandon and I are both from where, Brandon? Where are we from?
Missouri.
Midwest. The Midwest.
We live in Southwest Missouri.
And there's a stereotype against us.
Yeah.
Against us. What is it?
It's that we will drive anywhere, no matter how far the distance is.
Anywhere.
Whereas you could think about other countries, like in Europe, where they would think probably like a 2-hour or 3-hour drive is like a really far vacation, whereas some people do 2 to 3 hours every weekend or just a commute to work every day. So it's a lot different of a culture environment compared to it. But in Midwest, people like to drive, I feel like, longer than most Americans would.
Well, like
in general.
2 weeks ago, you mentioned this topic, and since then, I think multiple videos have popped up in my social media feed. But 2 of them specifically. One of them was today, and it was something about a Midwesterner. It's like, when will they take an airplane? And then it says never. And they're like 16 hours in the drive. How far is too far? And they're like, there isn't too far. And then I had a video pop up of a British person. Could not figure out what to call him. Somebody that lives in the UK. And she said she was talking to an American. She said where she lived. And she said, oh, is that near London? And she was like, no. And she pulls up the map in the video, and it's like 2 hours from London, right? And then it is this other British guy in his video, watching that video, and he says, okay, I need to defend the Americans right now. As a British person, I'm going to defend the American in this situation. Their country is so huge, you know? Like 2 hours from somewhere is near to that place.
Yeah.
If somebody said to us, do we live near
Kansas City,
Bentonville, I'd say it's an hour or 2, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas other places are not like that at all.
No, yeah. I've met a couple people from England and other countries, and they'll be like, yeah, I'm from England. I'm like, oh, did you live near London? Or, did you live near, Istanbul or whatever? Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, I was actually 45 miles south. And I'm like, bro, like, I know where that is. Yeah. Just say, I'm near London.
I'm 45
Because you got to think about it. The whole entire, main island of England is the size of Arkansas, Missouri, tiny. Illinois, and Iowa.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit bigger, but roughly like land mass. You could probably take the square miles of it, and it'd be close.
Yeah. I've grown up not in Springfield, Missouri, but outside of it. But anytime anyone ever asks me, where are you from? Springfield, Missouri. Yeah. Because odds are they're gonna maybe have heard of Springfield, Missouri. Yeah. Not where I'm actually from, which is Rogersville, Missouri. Yeah. And now they're only 15 minutes away, but. It's like the same thought process. I use that. You probably, because you grew up outside of St. Louis.
Yeah, I didn't live in the city.
You didn't tell people.
No, I'm from St. Louis. Yeah.
Yeah, because
I grew up in St. Louis County, but it wasn't like St. Louis City, which you do not have. Never mind.
The moral of the story is the UK is stupid. Just kidding. I like London. I've been to London, loved it. I have a British friend.
I've never been there.
And they have really good scones and biscuits, and their queen is pretty cool. Charles is running the country into the ground already.
Yeah, I know.
But not really, because he can't do anything.
Yeah, they don't. There's celebrities over there, right?
Figurehead. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how far is too far of a drive for you?
Oh,
like, where's the point where we're gonna go here, and then you look up how far of a drive it is? Like, no, I'm flying.
So I don't know. We went to Destin, Florida a lot in the summer. When I was growing up, and it's 12 hours. Yeah. And riding, it's like far, but it wasn't ever too far. And I've driven it a couple times now, being older, driving age. And it's not too far. Now, it is nearing too far for me, because I just don't want to drive. Yeah. But
Especially through Alabama and Mississippi, primarily.
Brandon loves
pretty
Mississippi.
bad.
He's got a Mississippi tattoo on his heart.
I do.
But the 12 hours, like, I don't really want to do it.
Nah.
But if you look at, like, if it was like me and Dory going and footing the bill, and then I looked at a plane ticket versus rental car and all that kind of stuff versus just driving.
Yeah.
And I could knock
That's
it
like
out
$2,000
in one
right
day. We'll drive, right? Like New York, 20-something hours or something?
No way.
Never.
No shot.
That's too far.
No shot.
But anywhere in the South. Anywhere in Texas, you drive to,
Yeah.
Drive to Colorado.
I think the longest drive, you also got to think, like, what are you going to do when you get there?
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to, you obviously would not drive to New York City.
Yep.
That makes no sense because you're not going to be able to drive anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
So it would make sense to fly because you could just get an Uber or a cab to your hotel and then just walk the rest of the experience. But, if you're driving, you're going to go to a destination and use your car to get from point A to point B and see stuff. You obviously need that. So I think the longest drive I've ever done is 18 hours.
Yeah.
And that was for a 5th grade field trip.
What?
Yeah.
5th grade field trip?
Yeah. My one of the parents had an RV and there was another parent had a Honda Pilot because there's too many of us that all fit in the RV. So we drove from St. Louis to Williamsburg, Virginia, which is kind of by like Newport News. It's like near the coast. Mm-hmm. And they have like
2 hours from there.
Yeah, it's like 2 hours. It was pretty horrible. But at the same time, I was 10 years old and we played Smash Bros in the back. Like it didn't matter. Yeah. But as an adult, I think the longest one I've done is 14, and that was to Denver.
Yeah. Too far? Or would you do that again easily?
Well, you gotta think about the terrain too. Like you're driving through Kansas.
Yeah, just flat nothing.
Which is awful. Because Western
Mississippi.
There's like a point differential and it's a close margin. Because like the Western Kansas is just a pancake. There's hundreds of miles where there's no gas stations, nowhere to fuel up if you get stuck.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a story about that.
Yeah.
Wait, though. Oh, what I was gonna say. Too far for me.
Yeah.
Or maybe not too far, but a different thing is like you're right. If what you're gonna be doing there.
Yeah.
Because like Orlando is gonna be like 16 hours from here.
Yeah.
And if we go to Disney World or something, I'd rather fly.
Yeah, you don't need a car.
Because you're gonna stay at Disney World, right? And so we're not gonna need a car, right? Where 16 hours might not be too long, but what are we gonna be doing there? We're gonna be staying in the same place the whole time. Anyways, story about Kansas, okay? So when I was in high school, my young life leader, shout out to Tyler Campbell. You actually know Tyler.
I do.
You might have heard the story, I think. I probably told it.
I've heard from you and him.
Perfect. Great. You're going to love this. But we were going on a 14er hiking trip to Colorado. Left Thursday night, hiked it. And anyways, we're coming back like Sunday, early morning. It's like maybe 2 or 3 in the morning. And we're in the middle of Kansas. And it has taken us off the highway. And so we're on these like country roads. And there's not a single light pole anywhere, right? So it's just pitch dark. No houses, no nothing. It's only fields, only us in the fields. And I wake up to the van having broke down. There was like 14 of us or 12 of us in a 14-passenger van, and it's broke down. A bunch of these guys are handy dudes. And so in this van, you can access the motor cabinet area. I don't know what you want to call it. From the inside of the van, like in between the driver's seat and the passenger seat. And so you take this thing out and you can access inside there. Well, the vehicle's overheating. We were out of coolant. And so we devised a plan of me and then my buddy Lucas, and him and I are in high school. We're the youngest and the smallest people there. And so they found a hole in a tube that had the coolant in it, right? And so we emptied all of our water bottles, put it in. And then what Lucas did was he reached his hands in there and was holding the hole closed on the tube pipe, whatever it is. And then I'm down behind him, holding like a towel in front of his face, because even with him holding on, it's just spraying in his face. But anyways, 2, 3 in the morning, we find a Walmart. It's like 10 or 12 miles away or something. And Tyler gets in the driver's seat. And what he does is starts the vehicle, gets it up to like 60, 70 or whatever. Puts it in neutral, turns it off, and holds his headlamp out the window. And we just coast until we get to like 20, 30, turns it on, back up, neutral, or turns it off and headlamp out the window. And we did that for like however many miles it was to Walmart till we got this thing to kind of jimmy rig it. But that was a story about Kansas. It was just hilarious.
That's crazy.
Turn it on, get up to 70, neutral, turn it off, headlamp out the window. So super safe. And Kansas, freaking Kansas. There's no gas station, no nothing. But we did get on the highway, get to Walmart. And that leads perfectly into our next topic of, and it's really not a hot topic or
it will
controversial
be.
at all.
It will be after this.
But should prisoners get to vote in elections? I watched a video of this the other day, and you can go 18 different ways with this, but should prisoners get to vote in an election? Brandon, you're up.
Okay, so are we
first thoughts?
Are we talking about national elections or even county, state?
National, right?
Okay, only national.
High stakes.
High stakes. Okay.
High stakes. Old man versus old man. Old white guy versus another old white guy.
Are we all talking about prisoners that have life sentences should not vote, or just all prisoners?
I don't know. They were just real broad. They just said prisoners, right? People in prison for an extended amount of time. I'm thinking not the tax evasion, not the it wasn't me that actually killed the old lady. I'm thinking murderers, rapists, all of those people. Should they get to vote in a presidential election?
I do feel that you give up your rights as a citizen when you get convicted of a crime that you committed. And that is just the price you pay because you're no longer allowed to live in society because of the crime you committed. And you will not be able to integrate yourself with the rest of civilization because of your crime. So, no.
You made a decision that removed you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I could see people argue it that people with life sentences should not be able to vote because they're never going to get out of jail.
Yeah.
And they're never but people who don't have life sentences may be able to vote because they're going to eventually go out to, normal society.
Yeah.
Now, if you just do a petty crime, now this is where it's going to be, within the thin line of differences. But I feel like if you get busted for possession of pot isn't a thing anymore because most of it's recreational. So that doesn't really work. That doesn't work in my head anymore. It ruined it. But if you killed somebody, you definitely should not be able to vote. If you did any type of capital charge, you should not be able to have a say in what happens in law-abiding society.
Yeah.
So I guess that I'm gonna shovel it off to you.
Yeah. So the video that I was watching was a right-wing news outlet, and not to politicize it, but what it was some Democrat lawmakers had brought up that they were bringing to whoever's going to vote on this or talk about it, that they want people in prison to be able to vote. And the news outlet was saying this was because they think that the majority of prisoners would vote Democratic, right? So that's the political thought process behind it. And I was like, I don't know about that either. But what a horrible way to give the prisoners opportunity to vote. Is like, we think that you're going to vote this political party. So we're going to allow you to. But next time, maybe we don't think, and so we're going to take it away. Anyways.
Could that be another strategy to swing the votes to where you want it to be? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
We'll take off some prison sentence if you vote for this person.
That would be, something that they could definitely do. But my thought is there are so many crimes, so many levels of a certain crime, so many different sentences. And so, obviously, who's deciding that? Who's deciding, okay, if you did X, Y, and Z, then you can vote. If you did X, Y, and Z, then you can't vote.
Yeah.
Maybe you can vote when you get to a certain point in your sentence, or you can't until this point. But it just seems super, super messy.
Yeah.
And I already have a lot less faith in our political system than I did maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Young, but still, and so to me, that seems like a really messy situation of people that maybe shouldn't be deciding those things.
Yeah.
If you get to vote, you don't get to vote. When they made a decision, however large or small it was, of a crime to have to be removed from society, like the majority or the governing body or whatever of the United States believes that you should not be acting to with your own actions out in society anymore, that we need to put you in this place that is separate from everybody else because you're a danger or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so why should they get to vote? Right? Yeah. Because in my head, if it's all prisoners, well, if it is somebody that's really messed up in the head and murders somebody, rapes somebody, what are they going to be voting about? Are they going to just be voting for the thing that they think is, the worst choice? Yeah. Or what are those votes going to be? Yeah. What's the thought process going to be behind those votes?
My mind comes to who decided that prisoners can't vote? Like, when did they take that out, that freedom away? Mm-hmm. And then you got to think about, is voting a human right? Yeah. Yeah. Is human rights is what would you say? Roof over your head, food in your belly, and, somewhere to sleep. Mm-hmm. But then, prisoners can go to college. Yeah. They go to college, they can take classes, they can do a lot of things. And I think prison reform is a positive impact in that world. I think you can do a lot of great things with that. But then you got to come to the question, okay, if they can go to school, if they can take classes, if they can receive care and resources, why can't they vote? Yeah. Yeah. So I guess maybe you got to look into some statutes to that, or the Constitution.
Could it be part of a reform process that, they've met X, Y, and Z goals or whatever, and then they gain that ability back?
You have so many good years or months of what would they call it? Good behavior. Good behavior. Yeah.
But it's just messy, I think.
It is messy.
That would be just so many different.
And black and white, the rules and things when it comes to people is kind of wrong. By black and white, I mean like this or that. Yeah. So I mean, there's places where it belongs, and there's places where you can find a gray line. You can find a blend between the two. But I just don't want it to be abused. You know what I mean? Like, if they allow prisoners to vote,
this state allows it, this state doesn't.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have problems with the college, the voting issues, and then you're gonna have like, okay, well, I got a bribe that if I voted for this person, they take this XYZ off of my record. Yeah. So I think it can get really
I get a TV in my cell.
Yeah, I'll get a carton of cigarettes or whatever. Yeah. So I think it can be abused, and with how sensitive and polarized our nation is at right now, I think you got to look at it very carefully under the right microscope and have everybody in the room to make that decision, not just one political party. Mm-hmm. So,
which is how everything should be done.
Yeah, it should, but sometimes it's not. 2024 is going to be a wild year.
Yeah. Yep. It sure is.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought this year was the election year, like in February. And then I was like, oh, isn't this election year? I haven't heard anything much of what's going on. And then I was like, oh, wait, it's next year.
Like, when is the actual election? Because they're already
November 2024.
Ramping stuff up months ago. The Republicans have had like 3 or 4 or 5 debates already. Mm-hmm. And it's already narrowed down. Like the last debate a couple nights ago was like 4 individuals, I think.
Yeah.
Vivek. Not Marco Rubio, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, and what's her name?
I don't know.
Nikki Haley. And, it started with like 10 or so, or maybe more, maybe 12. But it's already narrowed down to them. And Donald Trump hasn't shown up in a single debate yet. Which I thought was so funny. I thought
that's the elephant in the room.
When they had like 10 or 12 Republican candidates on the first debate, it was big news that Donald Trump didn't go. And I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. He didn't go. That was a big statement. And then I was like, surely he'll go to the next one. And then he didn't. And then he didn't go to the next one. And then he still hasn't showed up.
He's like, I don't need to debate.
I think it's hilarious. Yeah, Chris Christie, do you actually think that you have a chance to win? That's just my shout out to Chris.
I don't know enough about her.
It's a guy.
Oh, him. See, that shows how much I know.
He's from New Jersey. He's ran like 3 or 4 elections. In like
I should probably start doing my own research.
The last one, the one before, and I don't know about the one before that, but this is his 3rd for sure.
Okay.
And every time
the name sounds familiar, but I don't know why I thought
he makes it to like top 5, but top 5 as in he's the 5th and he has 2% of the vote or something. Yeah. You know, and every time he's running, I'm like, what are you doing with your life?
Are they all? Is anybody running? Is anybody running independently?
There's one guy in some state somewhere, and he's got like 10% of the vote. He was an old governor.
Remember, like 14,000 people voted for Harambe.
For Harambe
in like 2016.
And then
voted for a dead gorilla.
Junior.
Yeah.
Is he running Democratic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Democrat. Yeah. I know that.
Well, he like leans more Republican than most Democrats, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he does because he's a environmental lawyer.
Okay. So he speaks for the trees like the Lorax.
He is Lorax. It's interesting because he's been on a lot of different podcasts he was on a Theo Von podcast.
Yeah. The guy with that long hair.
Yeah.
Mullet.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, this guy's literally a presidential candidate and he's on a comedian's podcast. Yeah. So that's just kind of how different the platform is, because I feel like podcast is the new talk radio. Mm-hmm. It's the new sports. It's the new, I feel like more people watch podcasts than I do the actual news.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people. And used to, podcasts were not the cool thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember when there was the podcast app on, like, probably my first iPhone. Mm-hmm. Like, what the heck? Like, I knew what a podcast was, but, like, nobody listened to podcasts.
Yeah. Because they weren't videos attached to it.
Yeah. Yeah. But video. This is video, so you can watch us. But yeah, I don't know. He was saying that if he won, that he thought that he'd be assassinated in office or something.
Well, he said that?
Yeah. Oh. And something about like, he was saying that it if he gets assassinated in office, that it is the Democrats that assassinated him or something. I was like, that is a really bold statement, sir.
Well, his family does have a history of it.
Maybe more internal stuff than we do. I think there's a lot of shady crap that goes on.
When your uncle and your dad were both assassinated, it's got to be difficult. And, that would make me not want to do anything with politics. If
I'm an environmental lawyer.
2 of my family members were killed. Yeah. Whether you believe if it was whoever it was. Yeah.
They were still killed. There's a lot more information that has come out in the last year about JFK's assassination not being
Lee Harvey
Oswald than ever before.
Because they released it.
Yeah.
Because all the people that were involved in it are dead and they can't be accused of anything.
Well, and like they're saying like the CIA was involved. Period. Like that was that. And I was like, were they actually though? Like, is that allowed? Can they get away with that? Even if it was
all those people are dead
50 years ago?
Yeah.
That seems wrong to me.
Well, people say, whether Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA informant or if he was a rogue nationalist or whatever, there is some fishy things that happened with it, like the magic bullet that they initially said happened. So like when JFK was shot, one bullet went through him and went through the governor of Texas. Yeah, so it was all one bullet, but then there's video footage of it being multiple. I think it was like 3. I mean, I wouldn't say this is factual, but I think it's like 3 rounds that came. But then it's like they looked at the trajectory of the book building where Oswald was allegedly at versus the grassy knoll where they think the FBI or CIA might have done it, or like underneath one of the sewer caps. So it's interesting for sure. I don't know. I think. Yeah, I don't know. But what a crazy time to live, though. For real.
Scary thing is, that could have happened, and we have no idea.
No.
We have no idea. Like, if one of our presidents was assassinated by our actual government, people that are actually more powerful than the president.
Yeah.
And that maybe the president, I don't know, didn't know. But just did, like, what information is kept from the president and what is not. I want to know when the president becomes the president on his first day, what do they tell him? What packets do they hand him?
Well, Truman didn't even know about the atomic bomb when Theodore Roosevelt, when Roosevelt died. He didn't know anything about it. So when
we had it or something.
Yeah, he didn't even know we were making it or anything. He swore in when Roosevelt died, and then he's like, "Yeah, we're planning to bomb Japan with an atomic bomb."
He told people that, or they told him that.
They told him that. He didn't know about it because the vice president didn't even know about it.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy too. You'd think that they work closely together, but I think that the vice president is way more outside than probably what we think. Which what's the point of a vice president if they're like not included and like you're not getting their feedback on everything?
Yeah. Right? Have you seen Vice?
No.
About
TV show?
It's a movie about Dick Cheney.
Christian Bale?
So the kind of premise of the movie is what they showed in the movie.
One that shot somebody when they were hunting?
Yeah.
HW? Yeah. Or George W.
No, Cheney shot someone.
Yeah, when they were hunting.
I don't know who he shot.
Was he with HW or George W?
He was with George W. Bush. Yeah, he was his vice president. But the premise of the movie is like, vice presidents don't really do anything. Yeah. At all.
Yeah.
And then his whole thing was he's going to be in charge of a lot of things if he was elected. And then obviously he was elected and he was in charge of a lot of stuff that happened. It was an interesting movie. I don't know if it's all accurate or not, but it was interesting to watch.
See, in my head, here's the thing about the vice presidents. Originally, it was the runner-up that won. That became the vice president. Yeah. Which, honestly, I think if the vice president doesn't have a ton of power, that seems like kind of a good idea to me. Yeah. Because you have the two people, this party and this party, that had the most votes. You had this one that won. You had this other one. And if they are running to make the country a better place, whatever, then should they not be able to work together and John say, well, I think we should do this. And then Harry over here lost, but he says, well, let's think about it from this angle, right?
Like, no, loser, I won.
I think that's how it ended up happening was they did not work together, which in theory they should.
In a perfect world, they would.
If they're all in there to serve the people, then they should work together and make the best decisions. But
at the same time, though, imagine if you were the runner-up and then that person was like, yeah, do you want to be the vice president even though you lost? Would you say yes or no? You know?
Well, it's like all about their intentions, right?
Yeah.
Are they trying to win president, become like the most powerful dude, the so-called most powerful dude in the country? Or they're trying to make the country a better place or whatever? Because if they were, then yeah, sure, let's work together.
Yeah.
But hey, nobody asks us.
Nobody asked for this.
And you didn't ask for this.
At all.
And this was episode 6.
Who knows if anything was said was factual at all?
Probably not. Maybe 12%, 14%. We'll put it in one of those things that the teachers use to make sure the kids aren't cheating and stuff.
Oh.
The whole thing tells us that all of our stuff was wrong.
Yeah.
And that this was all, what's it called when we steal somebody's work and we're writing a paper?
Plagiarize?
Yeah, this was all plagiarized. We just copied somebody else's podcast, so we just printed off their script and then memorized all of it. So you're welcome.
But we have Stand on a Dinosaur. So
Stand on a Dinosaur.
Yep.
This is actually Joe Rogan's next episode, and you're just getting it here first.
Yeah.
So, see you later.
And now we're sued.